Welcome to Ravensdale Bible Academy. Today's course is Introduction to Marriage, and today's lesson is how to handle trials. Now, you would think that in a great marriage where two people love each other and are just hopelessly romantic and just can do no wrong, that there would never be any trials. But let's just assume that you magically happen to be in the most amazing, perfect marriage ever, and these two sinners who come together magically stop sinning, and now you're into marriage. Well, the world around you will go into chaos. The world around you will create tribulation and trials, even if your marriage does not. And so you need to learn how to handle trials. James 1:2-4 tells us this. It says, "Consider it pure joy when trials and tribulations come." Now, I want that to sink in for a second. I want you to picture a trial that you've had in your life. I want you to picture something that was hard and difficult that you didn't like. Maybe you caused it. Maybe somebody else caused it. Maybe it's just something as simple as COVID and the ramifications of COVID, of losing your job or not being able to go to school or making school very difficult, whether it's high school or college. This was something out of your control. Now you have to wear a mask. You don't like wearing a mask. You can't go to restaurants. The movie theaters are all closed. Whatever the case may be, here is now this trial that you're going to have to deal with. And so marriage is an amazing blessing. But as I mentioned, two sinners are coming into it. So you bring the sinners and the life trials, and there's going to be some conflicts. The world is hard. The world's hard. The world's full of surprises. I've been in earthquakes. I've been in, windstorms that took the power out. Snowstorms took the power out. Things happen. That's just the way it is. There's surprises. So what do? How do we prepare ourselves? How do we prepare ourselves for a marriage that we know is going to have trials? And so it's not something we should be afraid of. It's just something that we have to practice and set our kind of like an emergency fire drill. Just set our methods in place so that when the trials come, we're ready. We can implement our emergency kit. So how do we respond to pain? How do we respond to arguments? Yes, you're going to argue. How do we respond to lost income? How do we respond to a lot of income? Believe it or not, receiving a lot of money surprisingly can be problems as well. How do we respond to death? How do we respond to having to move? How do we respond to, again, things like COVID that just come out of nowhere? Well, there's three steps that I want to kind of take a look at, kind of our emergency steps, right? To be prepared, to be prepared for these trials. And the first one is, again, in James 1:2-4. And it starts. Here's our starting point. You have to determine right here, right now, to have the right attitude. You have to determine, have the right mindset that, when trials comes, not if, when trials come, when tribulation comes, when there's an argument, I will consider pure joy. Now that sounds ridiculous, right? Wait a minute. I'm going to consider losing a championship game pure joy. I'm going to consider getting in a bad car accident pure joy, losing my job pure joy. Yes. Yeah. You're going to look at it with a different framework. Why? How? Well, it's going to start with this idea of, first of all, you're going to see the good in it. You're going to consider, right? Consider it. Think about it. And what's joy? It's a happiness, right? It's a happy blessing. This event that's taking place is a blessing. Have that mindset. Why? Well, James 1:2-4 tells us why. Because the testing that is happening through this trial is a testing of your faith. And it produces strength and endurance. strength and endurance. And you want to be strong. You want to be a strong believer. You want to have a strong marriage so that when a storm comes, you're able to have the strength to withstand it. And so there will be trials that happen over and over again. Surprises will take place over and over again. So each time this happens, think of yourself as lucky. Like, all right, I got a great practice. I got more strength, more endurance to make it again and again. I don't care what comes my way, I can make it. We, in this relationship, we can get through it. We can get through any obstacle. Well, the second key point to handling trials is found in 1 Peter 1, 6 through 7. It says, even in distress, remember, it proves your faith. So not only does it, in James, strengthen your faith, but it actually proves your faith. Do you have faith? Do you have faith in the Lord? Do you have faith and confidence in your spouse, in your marriage? Who do you trust? Are you really just trusting in you? Are you trusting in your boss? Are you trusting in your bank account, your insurance plan? I mean, what do you trust in? What do you put your hope and faith in? And so when trials come up, it really reveals what you trust most. And so it's the place where you put your confidence in. Another way to describe this is this process of proving your faith is the process of what's called refiner's fire. So the old anvils where the big blacksmith would hammer, bam, 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 he would hammer, right? The steel. He would forge out of a piece of steel with the extremely hot fire and the power blows. He would forge out of a piece of steel and turn that into a sword or a tool or weapon of some kind. It's the refiner's fire. It's the banging. It's the heat. It's the pain of the pound that strengthens us. That proves who we are. It's a proving point. And so that's what's going to ultimately help us then again get through the storm. It proves you're strong. And then finally we see in Romans 5, and in Romans 5 in a little different way, in Romans 5, 3 through 5 says, explain that, and it explains that the trials, now listen to this, the trials develop godly character. Don't you want godly character? Don't you want to be a godly person? Don't you want to have a godly marriage relationship? Well, if you do, well, then you're going to need to be tested. If you want a godly relationship, if you want godly character, then you need to be tested. You need to go through refiner's fire. And this will help you to develop genuine, true, godly character so that you can persevere through anything, any storm. It does not matter. Joseph reminds us in his story that what man meant for evil, God meant for good. And so again, if you have this mindset that trials aren't evil things, trials are good things, then you can consider it pure joy, knowing, look, this proves my faith, knowing that this is going to strengthen my faith, knowing that this is building my character, my strong godly character, and ultimately my marriage. Why? Because we will endure trials. Trials will come. So find your joy in how you handle your trials.